Hey, remember when they got all the car companies got that big bailout, then they got that big tax cut, and they got all these things because that's supposed to create jobs. You know, the big bailout was supposed to help all the car companies and Wall Street. And those tax cuts from Trump, they were supposed to help create jobs, right? It was going to trickle down. That's never failed before. It was going to create jobs, right? Well, let's see. Is it doing that? Gee, I don't know. Boom, doesn't sound like it. Ford to cut 7,000 jobs by August, including 900 this week. What about that tax cut they got? They got a huge tax cut. Their CEO made $18 million last year. $18 million. That's what Ford's CEO made. Yet that's what they're doing. Ford is laying off about 10% of its global salaried workforce, the company said on Monday. The jobs cuts are part of the company's restructuring effort and is expected to save the number two automaker $600 million annually. Well, that's good. Now the CEO can get a raise. Maybe it's going to be $25 million next year. It was just $18 million this year. They're struggling. They're struggling to get by on $18 million. So they get these huge tax breaks. They get millions in salaries to the top folks at the company. Why do they need to save all this money? Why do they need to make all these cuts? Well, let's continue. More of the reductions are overseas, with roughly 2,300 of the jobs coming from the United States. Ford Motor said Monday that it is laying off about 7,000 managers and other salaried employees, about 10% of its white-collar workforce across the globe, as part of the restructuring plan to save the number two automaker $600 million annually. The cuts, some of which were previously announced by Ford, will be completed by August, Ford CEO Jim Hackett said in an email to employees Monday. Most of the reductions are overseas, and roughly 2,300 of these jobs cuts are coming from the United States. This round of layoffs won't impact Ford's hourly factory workers. The company had roughly 199,000 employees across the world at the end of last year, about 3,000 less than the previous year. So they're still steadily cutting those jobs, but this particular cut won't pertain to them. That's what they're saying. Like, oh, we continue to diminish those jobs too. But these particular cuts, these are managerial cuts. So, so no worries for right now, factory workers. But, I mean, we're still cutting you. Like, we're still slowly cutting you. We're down 3,000 from last year. So, it's not like cuts aren't happening. Just these particular ones. Awesome, Ford. Awesome. It's great we gave them this big bailout and all these tax cuts. It's really benefiting working people. It's really working out for working people. There are no flaws in this strategy, none whatsoever. All right. The company had previously announced it planned to cut its European workforce. Okay, so there's their notice to employees. All right. So there we go. All you ever hear from companies like this is about cuts and layoffs. Meanwhile, we keep giving them more money. It's like that Paul Ryan meme. Like, so we gave, if you ever seen, there's this Paul Ryan meme that's out there where it's just a picture of his stupid face. And it just says, so we gave these corporations more money and it didn't work, so we need to give them more money. And he has like a straight, confused, that's his natural look. His natural look is that he's just confused and out there. He's not confused. He knows exactly what he's doing. But confused is the only way he can try to sell his bullshit. So that's a famous Paul Ryan meme. Not that Paul Ryan is, involved in this particular, for instance, but, that's the type of bullshit people like him parrot. All these tax breaks via Trump, the bailout via Obama, all this stuff, and still cutting jobs left and right. And Republicans will still try to sell this in the future. They'll say, hey, it's good for jobs. We got to give tax breaks. We got to give tax breaks for jobs. Yeah. Trickle down. The only time trickle down works is when you're screwing people over. That's the only time trickle down actually applies. When you screw over the people, who have paid their dues, so to speak, and have worked their way up the ladder, when you start screwing them over and start screwing them out of money, start screwing them out of benefits, you screw over the people all the way down to the bottom as well. You know, when you start, you know, if a company like if Subway starts screwing over their shift managers, they're going to screw over their part-time entry-level hourlies as well. That's when trickle-down actually applies, when it comes to how hard you're going to screw people over. Screw over the working class. That's the only time that theory makes any sense whatsoever. When it comes to giving more wealth to people, it has never worked. Ever. It has never, ever worked. It's a parody of itself. But it did what it was supposed to, which was sell a lie to people. It was never supposed to actually help the working class. It was just supposed to sell a lie to people so that we can allow the corporatocracy to run this place and to not pay their fair share at all. To pay nothing, basically. That's what it was designed for. All right. Good job, Ford. Way to go. Way to go.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and